What's your best fire me, I ducking dare you moment from work? I was 17 and working part-time at a fast food restaurant. Someone wrecked the men's restroom, shat in the urinal, rubbed sheet all over the wall. The manager came out and told me to clean it. I refused. She threatened to fire me, to which I laughed in her face and told her you can clean it yourself, or you can lose an employee and still clean it yourself. I don't need this job. Needless to say, I wasn't fired and I didn't clean that up. I still laugh thinking about it. That's an OSHA violation. You're supposed to be provided with PPE, personal protective equipment, before cleaning up hazardous waste such as bodily fluids. I don't think the fast food manager working for $8/HR in some podunk Georgia town was up to date on the latest OSHA laws. This was the early 2000s in a right to work state. They all just made up some other sheet to fire me anyway. Worked for a newspaper, editing and actually putting the paper together, arranging it all, placing stories and pictures where they need to be, titling, quoting, and sourcing everything. I was a one-man team and used an overly complicated system that I figured out how to use really effectively. They treated me like shit, set impossible deadlines, and berated me for not meeting them. One day the boss tells me to fully put a paper done by the end of the day, gave me no warning. I had no articles from the journalists and no photos from photographers. It was my job to collect it all from everyone, and he wants me to do it in a single day. I told him no. If he wants it done, he has to give me more time. He tells me if I don't have it done by the end of the day I'm fired. I tell him that this paper can't function without me. He tells me I need to take the day off and cool my temper and that he'll do my job for me. Get a call an hour after I get home that he needs me to come in and do it, and I can have as much time as I need. Promptly quit on that asshole. Duck your shitty newspaper. Best one. Only took an hour of having to do your job to make them say duck this. I also work at a newspaper. My specific job is an entire section of the newspaper. What I can get done in 15 to 20 minutes takes everyone else hours, sometimes days. I once called in sick to my part-time job at Club Monaco. My manager told me that if I couldn't find anyone to cover my shift, I was going to be fired. So I FaceTimed her from the and had the doctor explain to her that I needed an MRI cause they wanted to make sure I didn't have a brain tumor. When I was 17 I worked a summer holiday job at Pizza Hut. I had transferred to my hometown restaurant from my university town restaurant. I was there for 5 weeks and hadn't been paid yet. The deckhead boss claimed it was because I gave him the wrong employee number. I hadn't. Anyway, after 5 weeks of no pay I rang him on New Year's Eve, i.e. busiest night of the summer, and said I wasn't coming to work because I wasn't a volunteer and I wasn't going to work for free. He told me if I didn't go to work I may as well not come back as I would be fired. I didn't go to work and had a fun New Year's instead. Then a few days later I called the employment tribunal, I'm in New Zealand, and told them what had happened. They called my deckhead boss. He then called me, offered me my job back, and was nice as pie for the rest of the summer. You have to be a real deckhead boss to think that you can threaten someone that you've yet to pay for more than a month of labor, especially when there's a whole government department just waiting for someone to let them know that their employer is withholding their wages and is only a phone call away. Husband was having his gallbladder taken out and was having complications before surgery. I needed to leave early from work for about 2 hours and my boss threw a fit stating I couldn't leave. I told her I had 300 hours of sick time I can use for myself and my husband, and if she wanted to push it take all of it at once. Leaving no one but her to do my job. She said she'd fire me if I tried. I just looked at her and said I have to go, I'll send you my doctor's note. I wasn't fired. I was actually awarded that year for job performance. Edit. I didn't take all 300 hours. I just threatened to, since I was protected by FMLA. I only took the day off. A new supervisor started at my dad's work a few years before he retired. This guy comes in hot to fix all the sick time abuse. My dad's department didn't have many issues. He had over 2,000 hours saved up at that point. This supervisor starts writing people up for calling in, so all 12 guys in his section Go get FMLA claims for back issues. It was a physical job. Sick time use goes from 1 to 2 days per person / quarter up to 3 to 5 days per month, and there wasn't a thing the supervisor could do about it. Worked for Radio Shack and always butted heads with the district manager. He wanted me to use these ridiculous sales techniques that might work in a big city, but were really pushy. The year he became RDM, I won a contest for best salesman in the whole company out of about 14,000 employees, and I did it without being pushy and forcing stuff on people. He still tried to get me to use these ridiculous techniques each month when he would visit, but after I won the contest I stopped sugarcoating it and would flat out tell him that's stupid, I'm not going to do it that way. I'm a speech therapist. I work in a skilled nursing facility. For the most part, they all suck. This is no exception. But the place I used to work, the boss was a scumbag. To the extent that the entire rehab staff signed a letter asking to get him fired. He was basically forced out. I eventually left and came to my current job. I swung by the rehab man. Saw his ass sitting in my current boss office. I kind of froze in shock. I thought he was interviewing for a job there. So I went to the boss at the time and told her flat out that if he got hired, I was walking out immediately. She got a stunned look on her face and quickly assured me that he wasn't working there. That was my first time drawing a line in the sand like that. Fellow SNFSLP, totally feel your pain. One of my favorites was my former door threatening me to pick up a 98-year-old end-stage dementia patient so she could learn to manage her medications. Man, was that a good laugh. I was a new grad at the time, and like most SNFs they cycle through therapists like crazy. You could tell she was used to clueless new grads succumbing to whatever unethical shit she proposed to get the building those extra Medicare $ ultra high rug level life. Am I right? Haha. Was a constant battle standing up for myself, but totally worth the daily struggle to sleep with a clean conscience at night. Was working in a restaurant. Already knew I was sick, but our managers were assholes and I knew if I called in they'd be extremely pissy. Showed up to work around 8 AM. By 9 AM I knew I wasn't gonna last the rest of the day. Managers still made me stay. Around 9:30 I was pre-bussing my tables and just the sight of half-eaten food pushed me over the edge. Managed to hold my vomit until I got to the dishwashing area, but puked in a trash can immediately after putting my plates down. A co-worker saw me and vouched for me when I went to tell my manager I was leaving for the doctor. He said, even with the doctor's note, if you leave work today you'll be fired. I said, you have human waste in a kitchen trash can and haven't even done anything about it. It's on camera. I'm leaving. Showed up for work a few days later and didn't hear anything about it. Ended up quitting a few weeks later for a job at a couple considerably higher scale restaurant. Put in my 2 weeks notice at wildly understaffed job. 6 days later got sick. I call around and see if anyone can take my shift. No one is available. Tried to call out that morning. Shitty manager tries to persuade me to come in, even though I'm barfing everywhere. I non-committally agree to call in later in the day to see if I'm feeling up to coming in anyway. Call back, say I'm still sick and will not be coming in. Manager blows up at me in front of customers, being rude as duck. Eventually asks what I expect to do about the shift needing to be covered. I say I have done everything I'm required to, and it sounds like a management problem to me. Hang up and turn my phone off. My dog became very ill quite suddenly, and he needed to be put down. I was at work and I asked to leave half an hour early, so I could be there for him. I asked my manager, and she got annoyed and said there was no way, and that I should have told her earlier. I said I'm sorry, I didn't realize my dog was going to die in the most sarcastic way possible, then walked away knowing she'd follow me. I then stood at my desk and typed my resignation up in front of her. She gave me the time off. No one was going to stop me from being there for my boy.